All right, hi everybody. This is Nasdaq recap for May 17th, and usually I want to show everybody 50% and 100% gains, but today I just want you to learn from my mistake. Sometimes the best thing you can do is just to even avoid a big loss on your part. So let me just show you a couple things here. I don't believe I really saw an A+ setup today. That's where you see a trend line break and a PSR change, confirming under the 20, and then confirming under or over fib levels. I'll just show you that as we go. So we're at 9 o'clock here. This is half an hour into the open, and as you can see right here, there's just really no play to be made. I will link what I use for my indicators in the video, and you can see why I use PSAR and all of these levels along the way. But let's just pause here, because I have a note and an alarm on my phone to say at 9:15, draw those fib levels. And so we are now at 9:15. We are 45 minutes into the open. And you can always adjust these later, but at least it gives me an idea of where we're at, where support might be, where resistance is. And one thing for sure is that right here under this 78.6 fib, we have some support. But you can see the 820 has turned red and we're underneath VWAP. So I am actually setting a stop buy underneath this right here because everything is showing me puts. You can see this candle is very strong red. This candle is very strong red. So I actually have a stop buy at this point right at 303. And that is for the 298 puts. That will expire tomorrow. Those were the closest expiration that I could find. So I'm just kind of hovering right. Okay, so right there, that did get filled. Okay, and right away it came and it hit this fib right here. So we're in, and things are looking pretty weak, or at least good from our perspective. So now this is why I like to put these fib levels on here, because you can see strong candles down for sure. And I'm scaling out as I go. At this point in time, we are scaling out 20%, and we are hoping to get all the way down to this fib level and sell the rest of our position right here, because it usually bounces on a fib. So let's just see. All right, so it's weak, it's climbing down. There's no real reason to get out of the position except for right there. You can see it tapped down right on that line, and you can see the wick went up right away. Those calls, or I'm sorry, those puts went from $2.65 to $3.60 right here, and that's almost a 40% gain in less than a half an hour. So that's a very good return for sure. And so now it's going to kind of struggle in this area. Things don't always just bounce right away, but you can see it has found its spot right down here, and it's not really wanting to go down too much further. And so at this point in time, I'm just sitting and I'm watching. But if there is a PSR change, I would like to go in small. So I went in small here. Those 308 calls at this point in time, they were 79 cents. And so I like to always get in on a PSR change, and then I like to just draw these trend lines to see, how far are we going here. This kept on climbing. It didn't really have super strong candles along the way, but it kept on climbing. And now that it got above this fib, I want to sell at this fib up here. I want to have my sell. Yep, and you can see that top of that wick right there made it up there. And so that went from 79 cents all the way up to $1.46. And if you were able to capitalize on that move, that was an 85% gain. But the big move that I wanted to show you today involves me actually turning off these levels. The fib levels, I'm going to turn those off. Okay, so I just wanted to show a tricky spot in here. You can see there's some resistance up here, and so this chart looks like it's going to break down. And so I have a rule that I like to buy puts once it gets underneath the 20 EMA, and once it gets under VWAP, and this is not a time to buy calls. It's looking actually pretty weak. And that candle happened pretty fast. There was a point in time where that actually went under that candle pretty strong. And let me see if I can get to this spot here where, okay. So as I was looking at this in my day, a mistake that I made was I was watching, and you got to remember these 5-minute candles go fairly slowly in a day. Right here, you can see, oh boy, those wicks are really showing pretty strong support at 302.96. But I actually placed a stop buy right here, and thinking that this broke down underneath the trend, it was underneath the 20 EMA, and it looked like it was going to go back down again. The other thing that was in my head as far as a bias was that it seemed as if this resistance was in up here. But this is why I use as many indicators as I can. And so let's see if we can move this out of the way and we can get these indicators here where PSAR, I'll just keep that off for now, but I'm going to turn on VWAP. And I'm also going to redraw those fib lines. So if we go back to those fib retracements from earlier in the morning, and we found that wick at 9:15, and we took it up to the wick of the day at that point. What happens here is this is actually not a time to place a stop buy. And I want you to learn from my mistake and save yourself some money for a couple of reasons. I was trying to anticipate this trend break, and I actually had my stop buy underneath this fib line, thinking that I was being really safe. And what we need to realize is there's a confluence that's happening here. VWAP is right at this level. Of course, the EMA is right at this level, the 20 EMA, and then this fib line is right at this spot. This is just not a spot to enter into a stop buy, because what ends up happening is you end up buying really at the wrong place. These can be like electric fences, just zzz, it can hit this and it can actually bounce. And so you want to be careful where you have your stop buys, and I thought I was being careful. But if you can see that there's actually a fib line hanging out where that trend line would break, then you want to make sure that you just wait to see what will happen, and then you can actually put a stop buy underneath these wicks if it would break down further. So you could actually put a stop buy at like 302.9, and that would be a confirmation under those wicks. Because what happens is if you get into a position like this, now all of a sudden your bias is in puts, and you start watching this bounce, and it's hard because you don't want to sell at a loss. And now you're actually missing out on calls, because when you see a low wick here, and it starts moving up, the clouds here, the 820 clouds are showing green. You're cheering on your puts, hoping it will go down. Okay, of course, you should have had a stop set above this fib line right here, but now you missed out on a move up with these calls. And the calls at this point, they actually went up 50%. From this spot here, they went up 50% in about a half an hour. And so just be careful with those fib lines. So just to review, if you've got a confluence here, you've got VWAP and a fib line and your 20 EMA, it's like an electric jolt there at times. And so you don't want to get into that until you can see that it has a confirmation down below that fib line. And if that happens, then it'll probably retrace down to here. This day was very volatile because it was a Fed meeting, and Jerome had some things to say this afternoon. So you can see right here, this hit that fib line again, electric jolt, boom. When you see something like this, where you can see those low wicks, you can see buyers are coming in. They were coming in for a big chunk of the day. And so to read the sentiment of the day and realize, okay, buyers are coming in, I want to get in on that because they're going to stay in on this for quite a while. A lot of the semiconductor stocks were doing well.